All right, it's lunchtime on Friday, and we are back with some real estate bites for you. It's a little bit more information to chew on here on your lunch break here at the end of the week, bringing you news and information regarding real estate, either locally or nationwide. So, this week's topic of conversation is insurance. I'm bringing my friend Tony Larizza, my friend and real estate guru, to talk about home insurance again. Specifically, this time, last time Tony was on, we talked about, are you underinsured? You know, a lot of people have their houses, their sump pump back up or water back up into the basement just to realize that they don't have enough insurance to really pay for the damages, and they end up with a gigantic deductible or maybe even a mess that they can't afford to clean up. Uh, Another thing that's come up here in recent experience, I would say over the last year, um, is the realization about how tight insurance companies are getting with inspections and how frequently they're doing inspections on homes to determine whether or not they even want to write a policy. Okay, so that's why we're bringing Tony in today. It is a pre-recorded conversation, but we'll have that happen in just a bit. First, we're going to go and get our little laugh of the week here with our meme of the week. Here it is. If Pete Davidson can date a Kardashian, you can be a homeowner. I mean, anything's possible, right? Even the seemingly impossible. So, look, not only did Pete Davidson date a Kardashian, he dated the Queen Kardashian, Kim, okay? No matter how improbable it may seem to you that homeownership is, you can get there. You just need to talk to some professionals who can give you the right guidance. Because even if today you're not, you're not eligible for financing, professionals are going to sit you down, give you guidance, come up with a game plan, and show you exactly what steps you need to take in order to become a credible borrower, someone that a bank will lend a line of credit to or will underwrite a mortgage, and you can get into that home. It's possible. We work with people all the time here at Right Sales Team who really don't believe that they're able to or ever will be able to buy a home. And we sit down with them and we consult with them and we connect them with a reputable lending partner of ours and come up with a game plan. And within a year's time, they're in a house and they're ecstatic because they never ever thought it was possible. But that's because they don't have the right information. All right, guys. So this is our chuckle for the week and our little message to go along with it. And at that, let's jump into this conversation with Mr. Tony Larizza. All right. I'd like to welcome back Mr. Tony Larizza to Real Estate Bites. Thanks for joining me once again, Tony.
Thanks for having me again, Jonathan.
Hey, so today we wanted to talk about insurance inspections. This is something that I think maybe a lot of customers out there aren't even aware of that is happening. I've had this happen with customers in the past. Actually, you came on once in response to something like this happening to a customer of mine where an inspector came out, found something wrong. They ended up with a big problem with their insurance company, ended up losing their policy, stuff like that. And we talked about that before, but it's a little more pervasive than I thought it was. And that's why I asked you to come on today, just to educate me and the people out there about what exactly is going on. So explain to us exactly what an insurance inspection is.
So an insurance inspection is going out and they're looking for liability hazards specifically, but they're also looking at roofs. Roof issues have skyrocketed in the last few years. So what they're looking at, let me go to the liability hazards first. So what they're looking at when they come out there, they're going to do an inspection of the outside of your house. And if it's an old house, like I'm saying, older than 80 years, they could do an inside and outside inspection of your house. But typically it's an outside inspection of your house. They're coming out, they measure, they take pictures. But what they're looking for as far as liability hazards go, they're looking for specific dog breeds that they don't like. They're looking for peeling paint. They're looking for missing handrails, and they're really focused on the roof. The roof is like the biggest thing right now. They're looking for curling shingles, missing shingles, issues with the chimney, So they're really, really buckling down on these things. And right now, most companies do not want to see a roof older than 15 years old, even if it's like a 30-year shingle. Now, there is exceptions for metal roofs and things like that, but I'm talking about just asbestos shingles roof. I mean, not asbestos, but asphalt shingle roof. They're looking at 15 years or less they want.
Wow. And when you say roof issues have skyrocketed, you don't necessarily mean that. Do you mean that claims on roof issues have skyrocketed, or do you mean the insurance companies identifying what they consider an issue with the roof has skyrocketed?
Claims. So I'll give you an example. One of my companies, Westfield Insurance is one of them. They, in 2023, they projected $90 million in claims. I'm just talking about claims in general, not just roof claims. I'm talking about just general claims. They were projecting 90 million. They paid out 270 million. And a lot of that stuff, a lot of that stuff was because of roofs. So that's what I'm referring to. And that's just one company. We have several companies, and they're all in that same boat. So the home claims have just gone out of control in the last few years.
So who's doing these inspections, Tony?
So they hire an independent third party usually, and they'll go, like I said, they'll come out, they'll knock on the door, they'll say, hey, we're going to do take pictures and measure a house, but they're looking for all those things. They're also looking for a fire hydrant near the house. I mean, they're looking for several different things, and they also are. One of the other main things they're looking at is, do we have the right replacement cost on this house? So what you buy the house for and what it costs to rebuild are two totally different things. That's apples and oranges. So, they want to make sure that we are going to be able to rebuild this house brand new if something happens and it's totally destroyed.
Okay. And, you just said that they'll come and knock on the door, but my assumption is they're coming out during normal business hours, right?
Correct.
They work normal office hours. If they knock on the door and nobody answers, they're probably going to do their job anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they're still going to do it. They're just doing, giving you a courtesy to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, in case somebody's wondering why they're walking around their yard. But if no one's home, they're still going to do it.
And for that matter, they're supposed to give you a courtesy. I can tell you that my clients who had this issue that kind of generated the conversation we had before, they didn't get a knock on the door. The guy just showed up and started doing his thing. And that's not necessarily a reflection on the company, and certainly not you, the agent. It's just, it's probably more convenient for them to just go and do it, get out of there as quickly as possible. They don't want to have a conversation. They want to move through this thing as quickly as possible. They don't want the homeowner asking a bunch of questions because it slows down their day. So the likelihood of people showing up and not giving that courtesy knock, I think is kind of high.
Yeah. The other way they get around that is a lot of my companies now are doing what's called aerial imagery. So they can go like Google Earth or some kind of website where they can zoom in on your specific roof. They even have drones now that go up and look at the roof. I mean, there's ways around it, but one way or another, they're going to do an inspection on that house.
Yeah. And this is, so how common is this? Is this happening on every single new home purchase?
Yeah, it's pretty much on every single one now. Like just to give you an example, I just quoted an account a couple of days ago. All I did was type in the information, got the quote, and with Travelers Insurance, I got an error message, or not an error, but a warning message saying, hey, we did an aerial imagery. In that little bit of time of me doing that quote, they already have an aerial imagery of that specific address and said there could be an issue. Now, I called there today, and they reviewed it, and they said, no, we're fine. I said, what are you guys looking at when you're looking at the aerial imagery? He said, we're looking at roofs. We're looking at debris in the yard. He's like, we're looking at overhanging trees, which overhanging trees has become a huge issue because trees, things falling off the trees and deteriorating that shingle is just making it deteriorate faster, which makes a bigger claim most likely. So a lot of companies now, like I said, if they see an overhanging tree in the picture, they'll go on Zillow, they'll go on the aerial imagery, and they'll say either trim this back or we're not taking this policy.
What about existing policies?
Yeah, existing policies are going back on those too. like for a new policy, what they can do, they have 60 days to get off an account. So if I write a policy, they got 60 days to go out there and inspect it. And if they have an issue, they either say, correct this issue, or they say the issue's too much and we don't want the risk, and we'll get off of it. So they'll send me a cancellation notice. On policies that have been on the books for a while, they're actually going back on those too. That never used to be that way. That's just been in the last few years. But they're trying to minimize their claim risk. So they're going back and looking at old houses too.
And why is it that these insurance companies, and I'm assuming this is probably all of them, right? And why these sort of new draconian measures? Why have they tightened up so hard recently?
Just because of the claims in the last few years have gotten out of control. So to give you an example, 2019 is the last time the insurance company for property and casualty made money. So here's another example of what I'm talking about. For every dollar that the insurance companies are taking in, they're paying out $1.57. So if they're paying out more than they're taking in, right? That's what I'm saying. Like they got reserves, but those reserves are getting depleted now because they're paying out more than they're taking in. So they have to take drastic measures. The other drastic measure they're taking is a lot of companies are going to a high deductible on homeowners now, or I should say, including a separate wind and hail deductible. So in the past, $1,000 deductible was standard. Now you're going to see a $2,500 deductible standard, and you're going to see a separate wind and hail deductible. And how they do the wind and hail deductible is they'll put a percentage on it. So let's say your house is insured for $500,000. They'll put a 1% wind and hail deductible on there, meaning now you have a $5,000 wind and hail deductible. So if any kind of wind or hail damage happens, you're paying the first $5,000 on that house.
Okay. Now let's say people buy a home. Their insurance company sends out the inspector. An issue pops up. They believe it doesn't really have teeth. What's the recourse for a homeowner if they run into one of these issues?
I would always tell them, go back to your agent. I mean, there are several times where I've noticed mistakes by these third-party companies that come out and do these things, where I can argue it. Now, if I get the inspection back and everything looks like what I thought as far as like square footage and how many bathrooms and all that stuff, I can't argue that situation. But if I see a mistake on it, I go over it with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure. So always call your agent just to say, hey, I disagree with this. And usually you can get a copy of the inspection from the insurance company that you can send to your client.
Right on. Okay, listen out there, guys. This stuff is unfortunately more complicated than any of us want it to be. Make sure you understand what you got going on in your policy. Make sure that your agent is communicative, is responsive. If you're not getting that kind of service, call my guy Tony here. His contact information is on the bottom. I can tell you from my own personal experience as a customer, a client of Tony's, he will pick up the phone and answer any call you got. He works hard. He does great work. He knows what he's talking about. How long have you been doing this, Tony?
25 years.
Yeah. So Tony's got some experience. Listen, Tony, your information you bring is always great, always very informative. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Tony. So that was my conversation with Tony Larizza regarding insurance and inspections. And I said thank you there in that little pre-record, but want to say thank you again. Tony comes on and he always brings excellent information. He always brings, timely information that is important to know so that you don't end up basically getting caught with your little insurance pants down. All right, very good. So let's move on to this week's real estate statistics. All right, so here we are, episode 51. This morning, when I checked these stats, again, these all come from the MLS that serves Northeast Ohio. These are statistics from Lorain County specifically, using them as a sample size for the region. So at any rate, the amount of inventory available this morning for single families and condos, there were 355 units available this morning. There were 70 closed sales in the county last week. The average or the median square foot, the median square feet of those sales last week was 1,628. You can see this is pretty common here. I mean, we have our average square foot is between basically 1,600 to 1,750. That's the average home here uh, in Northeast Ohio. 3 beds, 1.5 bath, about 1,700 square feet. Okay. The median home value for sales last week was $267,000. The median square foot value was $171.74. That, I believe, is the highest, and by quite a margin as well. Well, maybe only $3, but that's the highest we've seen. It's the first time since we've been doing this in over a year now that I have seen the median square foot value above $170 a square foot. You know, we talked about this over here. We're tracking that average square foot value by quarter to see what home values are doing, if they're continuing to increase or decrease. And this would indicate that we're still going higher, okay? It's not like it was in 2020, 21, and 22 when, it seemed like every month, it was another 3% increase. It's creeping up slower than that, but prices are still continuing to go up. The average days on market last week was 21. Only 3 weeks on market, guys, so homes are still selling quickly. From a week ago, the interest rates have jumped up 10 points to 6.91%, but that's still a full point under our peak. Actually a point and a quarter under our peak that we saw last fall at what was it, like 8.15, something like that. And then the biggest sale of the week last week was in Avon for $800,000. Let's go ahead and take a look at that house. Here we are in St. Marin Boulevard. This is the third time a red tail home has shown up in our top sale of the week. So let's take a look at this big beauty here. Obviously, it's in red tail. It's a gorgeous setting. You got a golf club. You've got those retention ponds that add a little tranquility, a little bit of water around you. Big, beautiful foyer, a nice, beautiful open kitchen concept. The living room with the fireplace here, big vaulted ceilings, everything you would expect in an $800,000 home. Beautiful design flow. I love the arches. The arches add a real nice architectural feature in any space. So that's the other side. That's on the other side of the archway there. You've got a dining room with a little bar in it, some additional storage and cabinetry. Very beautiful place. Love that tile work on the floor. Here's your master bedroom. Looks like it's on the first level. As you would expect, a big, gorgeous master bath. And we'll kind of zoom through the rest of these bedrooms and community bathrooms. I do love this. I love the office with the French doors that open up to a small balcony that overlooks the family room. That's a slick design feature right there. I like that layout. And then here is your basement. So you can sit at your bar and throw back cocktails while your kids are having playtime, making a bunch of noise behind you. All right. That's that for episode 52 of Real Estate Bites. I want to thank you guys for joining me week after week. I'm going to start doing something a little bit extra. Last week, I covered a news article talking about some baloney that they called a climate change real estate bubble. And I continue to run across news articles. I look at them every single day. Got a number of Google alerts set up that bring me this news. And I'm going to probably start doing some pre-records with some more reactions or discussions of articles that I'm reading about real estate or real estate investment or whatever, and sharing them with you guys. So that's going to be in addition to our Friday segments. I'm going to continue to do these weekly live broadcasts here on Friday at noon, but I'm going to start adding, not quite as consistently. They're going to be a little more sporadic, but I'm going to start adding here and there some additional content with these articles because, I read these things and I still want to have guests on and whatnot, but it's like, I want to keep these short for you guys, but I want to start bringing more content as well. So start looking for a little additional stuff throughout the week. But that said, as always, I appreciate you guys sharing your time with me and sharing this stuff with your friends and family who might find it interesting. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. I love you, people.